Hello, beautiful spirits. Me again. My name is Shakima, and I just wanted to stop in for today's Tools for Using Tools Tuesdays, which is essentially just going to be me giving you guys some insight to some tools for spiritual warfare, because in times like these, we definitely need it as the shifts are going, as the energies are sort of rising, as spirit is shifting its consciousness into more of an elevated state of vibration. We definitely need these spiritual warfares because the dark entities and energies are definitely putting up a good fight. So, Tools for Using Tools Tuesdays. If you guys want to tune in for future segments, I'm going to try and keep this as short as possible for you guys. I'm also sort of doing a podcast for Tools for Using Tools Tuesdays, which will give you guys more of an insight into other means of tools for personal ailments that we manifest through spiritual warfare, through entertaining dark forces, dark entities, dark energies, whatever you want to call it, demons, essentially. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about full moon rituals, how to do them and why they are a necessity. The reason why I've even actually chosen to do this video is because we've had the first spiritual sort of expression. We've had the first full moon of 2019, which was yesterday on the 21st of January. And I feel like it was an explosive one already. I feel like there's been so much changes in my life, considering it's only been about 24 hours and counting since the full moon and since I sort of did my ritual. Essentially, the full moon is when the moon becomes, ripe for its blossom. There's so many different sort of rituals. You can see it everywhere, all over YouTube. Essentially, for me, I like to utilize the full moons for releasing, and I utilize the new moons for birthing something new into life. Okay, so the new moon to me is more for intention settings, whereas the full moon is for release and purge. And I utilize the new moons to do different types of rituals. For me, new moons I actually utilize bath rituals for instead. And I know there's a lot of people here on YouTube that does bath rituals for full moon. But I will go into that more in another video, I guess, in terms of what I do when I'm sort of preparing for my new moon rituals, bath rituals, essentially. For my full moon rituals, I like to do a bit of a purge, a bit of a cleanse, clear the path for what I'm manifesting, bringing that into light. For also, giving me the opportunity to set my intention for the next full moon new moon cycle, to birth something new into blossom. Essentially, like with the moon itself as well. The moon, if we understand, the moon is she's responsible, Luna is responsible for the emotional body in the celestial realms. And, if we understand that our human avatar as, spirits here having this human experience, we get this human avatar and we have to navigate through the processing with it. And the human body is an emotional being. We are emotional creatures as, we are considered to be human beings. That's essentially it. It is emotions acting itself out and becoming manifested in a particular form. So we kind of have to ensure that our emotional state of affairs are in order, because every thought wants the opportunity to be actualized, and that thought is connected to the vibration of an emotional state of being at the same time. So we really kind of have to give ourselves the opportunity to navigate through the emotional processing so that we can elevate our consciousness into higher vibrational thought forms and thought patterns. A lot of the times when we find ourselves in situations where we are being affected by negative forces and negative energies, that's because in our subconscious mind we have formulated lower vibrational thought patterns, and consequentially they are impacting and affecting our ability to create in the way that we truly desire, as far as the outcome being manifested in such form and light. Okay, That being said, just to sort of give you guys more of an indication of what goes on in the celestial realms and what goes on astrologically, if we think about it, Amen, Mr. Sun, right, is essentially, how can I put it? Mr. Sun is representation of our egoic nature. It's a representation of thought, because the ego is essentially thought becoming aware of itself. The ego gives perspective. So if you consider Luna, Mrs. Moon, is like a mirror that is the sun looking and seeking a reflection of itself, to be completely understood and understood from a deeper level of itself. So Mr. Sun is essentially looking at itself in this mirror, and as it looks for the different layers of itself, as the moon goes from first quarter all the way up to its full peak, and come to the full budding of itself, where the sun is actually fully now aware of the emotional state of that particular egoic perspective, because the ego is perspective essentially, right? And what we can do is utilize the moon to give us moon rituals, essentially, to give us an opportunity to expand our ego, expand our consciousness, and give us also an opportunity to, I guess, purge emotional baggage that we may be carrying, because that a lot of the times that those are the things that block our blessings, if you will. And if we can release some of the baggage that we are carrying, we can make way for new to come into this space. We can make way for newness. We can become more open to receiving the very many blessings that the divine has in store for us. Okay, so thinking about it, as the sun is getting to see more and more of itself, as the ego is getting to sort of get more and more understanding of itself, so a particular perspective is being seeded, right? And as that perspective is seeded during the new moon, that's why I like to use that for intention setting, because that's when the moon's at its darkest sort of cast. And this is when seeds are sort of great to be planted. But as the ego is planting seeds, as it's planted seeds, it gets the opportunity to see those seeds come to light. And once the emotional processing of it is completed, it's almost like now you have a clearer perspective. You have a wider perspective. It's almost like it gives you a panoramic view of what is essentially going on with that intention that was seeded. And if we think about it as well, just the fact that the moon is actually representative of the emotional body in the celestial realms, it also governs the Earth's ability to navigate through its own elements of emotions. If we think about it, Luna, Mrs. Moon, is responsible for the tides. And this is essentially the water is a representative of emotions. So as the tides kind of roll around, as the waves kind of move and push through, we also get the opportunity to purge and release and, like I said, become open, because when we're carrying around a lot of the baggage from past situations, it's actually part of our DNA, because everything is mind over matter, simply because of the law of mentalism. The law of mentalism, in terms of the 7 Hermetic laws, dictates that everything happens on a mental level, so it's always mind over matter. This is how we're able to trigger our placebo effect. Now, that being said, guys, it's like when we are in that state of mentalism, we really have to be aware of the vibrations of the thoughts that we are projecting into the world, because if our emotional state is from a negative affair, so negative situation, negative circumstances, if you will, it means that we will have lower vibration thoughts. Now, if we're dealing with more positive emotional representations of ourselves, we will get the opportunity to have higher vibrational thoughts. And again, just simply because of the fact that every thought wants the opportunity to be actualized, it's always within our best interest to make sure that our emotional affairs are together and in order. Okay? Now, that being said, it's always great to sort of sit with yourself. I think what I genuinely enjoy doing with the full moon rituals is really taking some time for myself. So, this is how. I've given you guys an indication of why it is a necessity, based on the fact that we are emotional beings and we need the opportunity to, I guess, release some of our toxic emotions to make way for new creation, to make way for manifestations that are more in alignment with the true nature of who and what we are. Okay? And essentially, our essence is our authentic self. Our essence is, a lot of the time, our essence is tainted by other people's projections into our space, because a lot of the times we give our power away to people, and when they fall short of our expectations, we are then subjected to victimizing ourselves, based on circumstances that they may or may not have created into our space. So that's why it is important to do moon rituals, full moon rituals, in fact, for me personally, for the process of purging those old emotions, to make way for new beginnings. Okay? Now, how I particularly like to do my own full moon rituals is kind of like the song says in the background, which I always find inspirational, how spirit speaks through everything all at once. So with the full moon rituals, for me, what I like to do is to take a minute to myself and really think about what I've been going through emotionally for the last 28 days. So for the last moon cycle, what have I been dealing with? What has cropped up? What has shown itself in terms of the patterns that I've constructed in my subconscious mind? Now, getting some clarity on that after I've done my meditation process, I then sort of note bits and pieces of things that I probably haven't necessarily dealt with in the best way, or in the way that is in alignment with my true nature. Because sometimes as these things show up, we kind of act outside of ourselves, and then we have regrets, and this is where guilt sort of comes into play. Now, once I do a meditation and I am clear on what it is that I want to purge, what I want to release, what I want to get rid of in terms of any negative thought patterns or any behavioral patterns that are not going to serve me going forward, I then make a note of that. I list some of the things that have not been serving to me, and I then also just write a petition. Now, a petition, guys, is basically just a letter to the universe. Is the best way that I can explain it. It's a letter to your higher self. It's a letter to the divine, just to say that these are some of the things that I either want, or some of the things that I need to release at this time. So for me, what I did, just to give you like an indication of how these things can really impact our lives as well, guys. What I did for my recent full moon rituals, the first full moon of 2019, which was in fact the Wolf, a Leo super blood moon, okay? It was an intense one, guys. This was a lunar eclipse as well, so the energies of this particular full moon are actually going to serve us for the next 6 months of the year. So it's really going to, like, the seed that's been planted for this full moon is going to really show itself over the course of the next 6 months. It's going to give you the opportunity to see it blossom. So you kind of have to continue to do the work and be clear on what it is that you are choosing to release, and what it is that you are choosing to bring into light as far as what you're wanting to manifest going forward in the future. Now, if you are unsure about whether or not you want to release something, or if you are having anxiety, for instance. So what I tend to do, if I'm feeling anxious about a situation, I tend to write down, I would like to release my anxiety over this particular situation, and once I sort of write and note that I would like to release that, I then sort of note to myself, I intend to become more open to the changes that are divinely aligning me to the right course of action for myself, divinely aligning me to the best parts of myself to be able to become more and more of my authentic self. And these are some of the things that you can do. So it's almost like a sacrifice. And once you make that sacrifice and say, I'm choosing to release this, what are you choosing to manifest in its place? You know, these sort of rituals really gives you the opportunity as well to take control of your creating process, to take control of your manifesting process, to take control of working your intentions and magic, guys. Because again, a lot of the times things can fall or feel like it falls out of our control, but these rituals gives us the opportunities to be able to take back control of what is happening and how we can really define our place within the world of the circumstances that we are impacted by. You know, because other people do have the right to co-create with the creator as well, and they will very much do so. And you kind of have to define to yourself where you sort of stand in the grand perspective of everything that's going on. What I will say as well, you know, stuff like the writing the details down. What I tend to do once I've written down what it is that I want to release and what I want to manifest in its place, I then burn it. I release it and give it back to the universe. I did a fire release ceremony literally just yesterday, on the 21st. And it was so intense. I think I actually did it on the night, on the eve of the 21st, actually, on the 20th, because Luna came and paid me a visit and she was looking most beautiful. So I was just like, girl, while you're out here, I'm going to take an opportunity to really let you know some of the things that I've been dealing with, because I know that you are just so great at helping me with, you know, releasing these things, helping me with processing these things emotionally. So once I did that release ceremony, what I did was I left my the ashes of the things that I released. I left it to charge under the full moon. So I left it in the full moon light, and I also left it with a moonstone. So this is a moonstone crystal from India. I actually got this as a gift, so it stays in its little bag always. Just as a reminder that somebody else was thinking of me at a time in their spiritual journey, and they thought of me enough to be able to bring me something that's in alignment with me. Luna, I do a lot of work with the moon, with Mrs. Moon, on a day-to-day, week-to-week, just on a general basis, simply because I'm a Piscean, so I'm generally quite emotional, and she's a great listener. So sometimes I just go and have a bit of a chat with her and relieve myself, and it kind of gives me an opening for me to be able to move forward with certain situations that may have been holding me back emotionally. Okay? But yeah, once I purge and release everything, write it all down, and do the fire release ceremony, I then charge the ashes, which I then sort of bury. In most cases, I bury that somewhere, or I will just sort of disperse of the ashes by the roots of a tree, just to give myself the opportunity to, you know, give this the seeding of being birthed into life. Okay. I also let it charge by a crystal of choice. The moonstone is something that I've been working with recently, because the energies of what I then release is now being charged to the stone, and the stone is now connecting to the vibrational patterns of the things that I've chosen to release and the things that I have intended to manifest in its place instead. So now I have a physical representation of that release and acceptance, you know. And with that, I then sort of utilize that for the next 72 hours to logically start manifesting what it is that I have just set the intention to release, and what it is that I have decided to manifest in its space. And a lot of the times you'll find, as soon as you set that intention to become whole, it really does show up. It definitely shows up. You'll find yourself within the next 28-day cycle actually facing challenges, potentially, of some of the things that you chose to release. So let's say that you're going through a relationship struggle, if you will, and you're sort of struggling to let go of a past relationship. And one of the things that you kind of put down is that you would like to just give yourself the opportunity to move on from that relationship. One of the things that you'll find is that as you've released that and the energy is now becoming free from a vessel, because a lot of the times these things, as far as codependency, because that's what happens when we're in a relationship, these things want the opportunity to feed, these forces, these entities, because that's what they are, entities, energetic entity forms. And they want the opportunity to be able to feed. So the partner that you're choosing to let go of may show up sort of midpoint even of that 28-day cycle to be like, okay, like, are you really trying to get over me? And if you are serious about wanting to release that when you made that intention earlier on for the full moon sort of ritual, then you decide to walk away from that. And by you walking away from it, then it gives you an opportunity to potentially stay clear of that energy. It means that the energy won't necessarily stay with you as much, and it may sort of show up potentially on the next moon cycle. But it's really a case of you giving yourself the opportunity to stay strong. And with you doing these rituals, it basically also gives you an opportunity to be clear about your intentions, be clear about what it is that you want for yourself. And it's almost like you get the opportunity now to stop telling yourself lies, stop deceiving yourself, and you get the opportunity to become completely honest with yourself about what it is that you want and why it is necessary for you. If we're talking about relationship struggles, again, sort of considering the track that's popped on, Dear No One, it's a case of understanding that if that person is right for you, they will eventually sort of show up in your life, and you guys will find a way to become one with each other. So if it was toxic potentially before and you wanted to release the relationship because it was toxic as it was, eventually you kind of have to be assertive once the person shows up. Because I'm not going to say that someone can't change within 24 hours, someone can't change within 72 hours, but I think that it's going to be a struggle for you to be able to break free into new patterns if you are giving directly into the situation that quickly after choosing to release it. Because even though you've chosen to release the toxicities of the past, the partner that you are with is still used to that toxic pattern that is in their subconscious mind, creating from their inner child. And these things can become very difficult when we are trying to evolve. So just be mindful that if it's meant to be for you, it will be for you. And Luna, Mrs. Moon, is a great companion in the emotional processing of it all. Okay? I'm going to stop it there, guys, because I didn't want this video to be too long, but I hope that was useful for you guys. I hope that you guys can take from that what you will. If it resonated, let it sit with you. If it did not, then throw it away. You don't even need to focus on it any longer. But thank you for stopping in. Thank you for continuing the process of your personal evolution. And thank you for just taking the time to do some things for yourself. Okay? Be sure to comment, like, share, and subscribe. I will also be providing a link in the description box for you guys to check out my Patreon page as well, where I'll have additional stuff where you guys can sort of access as well. You'll be able to access my Tools for Using Tools Tuesdays podcast, which will be a bit more in alignment with, getting past manifesting physical ailments by going into contracts of these darker or lower vibrational thoughts, emotions, and reflections of ourselves. Okay? So, good luck, and thanks for being